What's the craziest piercing you've ever done on somebody?
Okay, there's a couple different ways to answer this. I've had people ask me for some pretty crazy things that I won't do just because it's not going to heal, and a lot of piercers will do it. They'll take your money, you know, whatever. They got your money, they pierced you, everybody's happy until it starts rejecting and you get a horrible scar. But I've had people come in who want like their elbow pierced. Why? I have no idea. It's not a very practical thing. It's not going to work out, so I'm not going to do it. I've had people come in who want their ankle pierced, just weird random places that aren't going to heal. But because piercing is becoming so common, everybody wants to be a little different. So they're like, oh, I've never seen that. Let's do that. You know,
right.
But that, just because you think of it, it's not going to work.
What are all those risks?
There's a lot of myths, like the brain damage from an eyebrow piercing, or face paralysis from an eyebrow piercing. I hear that one all the time. Or face paralysis from an ear piercing. They're very common. And unfortunately, a lot of them are spread by doctors who are just against piercing. They know it's not true, but scare tactics work, so that's what they do. There are risks. I'm not saying that there's no risks. There's definitely risks. But if you go to a reputable studio, those are minimized, and you know, our daily lives are more dangerous than getting a piercing. And that's for a few reasons. They're not properly cleaned. You know, it's the same machine that they use on everybody, so you can get tissue or plasma from one person passed on to the next person. There's, you know, pictures of people's ears that have just blown up from infections. And
so what happens? Do the infections go down, or do they have to like?
Sometimes. I have pictures of people who've had to have their ears drained, cut off, and then one girl in particular had to have cartilage removed from her ribs to basically plastic surgery, have the cartilage in her ear reshaped. So I mean, things happen, but you're more likely to have problems with a piercing gun than a piercing needle if it's done properly.
What is the most extreme reaction, or the most bizarre reaction actually, that somebody has had in response to pain?
There's a wide spectrum here. I have people who are crying before I touch them. I've had people pass out before I pierce them.
Oh my God.
I've had people laughing hysterically. I've been thrown up on.
Oh my goodness.
I had one person urinate on the table. Now this is all over 9 years, so this isn't the regular
I mean,
stuff.
I expected to hear all this
Yeah,
because
it's not the regular thing, but it happens. And there's other people who almost seem to enjoy the pain. You know, when you're dealing with genitals, I've dealt with erections, I've dealt with full ejaculation. You see it all.
Now explain the whole ejaculation thing.
Okay.
So are those the kind of people that like really get off on this stuff?
This has happened 4 times. The 4th time I actually wasn't even piercing a genital thing on them. I was piercing his nipples, and he just ejaculated and asked if he could go to the bathroom and clean himself up. The stuff that we're exposed to, it all just kind of becomes part of the business. And also, like, a lot of the piercings, you're actually putting something in the urethra, and there's a lot of nerve endings in the urethra, and you're stimulating those nerve endings that may have never been stimulated before. So sometimes it just happens. Right. But, you know, we're talking 3 or 4 times over 9 years. Right. Very rare. Usually they'll be like, I need to go to the bathroom, and they'll just kind of jump up and go.
What is the most challenging place to pierce?
That's a hard one. Everybody is built so different that even your more common piercings, like a navel, is going to be really easy on one person and very tricky on the next. There's no one piercing that's hard to do or easy to do, because everybody's anatomy is so different.
How did it feel when you pierced somebody for the first time?
I was nervous. I was very anxious. I was very excited. Piercing went really smooth. The first piercing I ever did was a tongue piercing. It was on a friend of mine, and there was about 12 people watching, and they were all crammed into a room, and they all were very excited for me. And the piercing went fine, and as soon as the needle was through, my hand was shaking so much that I was afraid to put the jewelry in because I thought I would lose transfer. So I actually had to take a minute and take a couple breaths and leave her hanging there with the needle in her tongue. Yeah, but it worked out. Everything went smooth.
How old were you when you got your first piercing, and where'd you get it?
I got my earlobes pierced when I was 14, I think. And my parents actually didn't want me to do that. Told me that the only way I could do it is if I let my uncle do it. And they thought I would back out, but I thought my uncle was cool, so I went through with it. My first professional piercing was when I was 17. I got my tongue pierced.
How did you get into this profession and why? What was like sort of the turning point from you from just doing it into actually turning into your life?
I actually originally got into it by accident. I was going to school for architecture. I was about halfway through my first year, and I needed a job where it was a relaxed environment where I could do my drawings. So a friend of mine owned a studio. He needed somebody just to basically be counter help, answer phones, do things like that. And since it was a relaxed environment, I could bring my drawings with me. I could work on everything there, and it kind of worked because everybody there is doing drawings all day long. And the more I got involved, he ended up needing a piercer, so I trained to pierce part-time to help pay for school. And then the more I learned, the more I liked it, the more I realized that there were things we should have been doing there that we weren't, and it just kind of snowballed.
Why do you think we've seen such a rise in people getting this done?
There's a few reasons. It used to be kind of an underground thing, or a bad boy thing, or a sailor thing, or whatever. It's something that everybody kind of wanted, but they were afraid to do it. And the popularity of the amount of underground people, it's just the more you see it, the bigger it gets. And now it's on TV, so that makes it a little more acceptable. It's on TV shows, it's in advertisements. I walked into Office Max the other day, and they have huge posters with a full back piece that they're using as an advertisement now to save money on ink. So, I mean, it's just, you're seeing in your ads as a part of everyday life now.
Do you ever feel that somebody may interact with you differently because you have piercings?
Yes and no. Not so much now. And I'm not saying that I'm old by any means, because I'm not. But I'm older now than when I first got into the industry. And when I first got into the industry, I found that a lot of people didn't take me very seriously. When I went to buy my first car, when I went to do things like that, it took some doing to get somebody just to help me. I don't really have that problem now, and I don't know if it's just more confident, so I carry myself different, or if people are just a little bit, that was 9 years ago, so maybe it's just a little bit more prominent. People are a little more used to it, so that they're not as shocked, but it definitely, it comes into play. My first tattoo is actually under this black square that you can no longer see. I got it when I was 17, it was a scorpion. These were actually done sort of as a promise to my dad. When I first started getting into piercings and tattoos, he made me promise him that I would never tattoo my hands or my face or anything really visible, just in case I got out of this profession, wanted to do something else, I could always cover it up. My ankles are done, more kind of along the same lines. More just aesthetics, nothing real exciting. My chest piece, which eventually this will all work together, it's all kind of a work in progress right now. But the chest piece represents my family. There's 5 of us, my parents, myself, my brother, and my sister. I left a hole in the middle for me, because you get married, that's supposed to be your other half, so I'll fill it in that. I have some stuff designed for my ribs. It's just a matter of time. My back piece took 6 years to finish. Right after we finished it, or right after we started it and finished out the design, the person who started the work moved to New York City. So our schedules just didn't match. It was taking 6 years to do. And it all has to do with energy and transformation and just kind of pushing forward no matter what. So there's a lot of spirals, a lot of motion involved.
I feel so
freaking cool.